Welcome everybody to another episode of Shadow Skull Studios Raven's deck list, and for this time around we are doing a Is It deck. It's gonna be Chaos. Is it Chaos? Yes, it is. By the way, guys, if you like this deck list, please like and subscribe. It will really help out the channel, and comment down below about any other commanders of the murders at Karlov Manor that you might want me to try and make a deck list of. I've been looking at them, brewing, and doing a bunch of stuff, so let's go ahead and get into it. For the commander, we have Kylox, Visionary Inventor. For 7 mana, which is expensive, we have Menace, Ward 2, and Haste. When it attacks, sack any number of other creatures, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is their total power. You may cast any number of instant or sorcery spells from among the exiled cards without paying their mana costs. So basically it's going to be Spell Slinger, making creatures, sacking creatures, and doing all that. And some of these cards I do not have yet. I've ordered them, a Card Kingdom, not sponsored. I'm not big enough to be sponsored. And yeah, so let's go ahead down the list. We have Ugin the Ineffable. Our colorless spells cost 2 less to cast. His +1 is what we're going to do is exile top card of your library, look face down, look at it, create a 2/2 color spirit token creature. When it leaves the battlefield, put the exile card into your hand. Basically with this, we're going to exile the top card of our library, we make a creature, and we can sack it to Kylox later. I've also there's some other cards I can kind of squeeze in here if I wanted to take some stuff out. I'll talk about that at the end. And he's also removal. Zariel, Archduke of Avernus, is +1, which we don't care about, but it's creatures you control get +1, +0, and haste. The 0, which is the one we do care about, it makes a devil. When it dies, burns something. And my 6 is when we get an emblem at the end of first combat of your turn, untap target creature you control. After this phase, there is a additional combat phase. Mostly we care about the 0. We're just going to make 1/1s and keep it up as long as she stays on the board. For our creatures, we have Alloy Mirror, who is just a token dude. We have a Dockside Extortionist. For mana, we have a Dualcaster Mage if we want to copy a certain instant or sorcery spell. Gutter Snipe to burn our opponents for each instant sorcery spell. Iron Mirror is a mana dork. Mecha Godzilla. Basically, we're going to make a big dude that we can dump our mana into, and basically when it dies, because we can sack it to our commander, we'll get a bunch of 1/1s later on. Mizzix, Replica Rider. When we cast things from exile, we can pay 1 blue or red, copy that spell. You may choose new targets. The copy is a permanent spell and it gains haste. At the beginning of your end step, sack this permanent. So we don't care about the permanent one, really. What we care about is copying our instants and sorcery spells. We have Palladiumer as a mana dork, because we have a lot of mana dorks, because our commander, again, is 7 mana. Pink Horror basically is going to burn our opponents, and when it dies, or if we sack it to our opponent, we can do more burn stuff later, because it kind of makes 2 replacements. Saheeli, the Sun's Brilliance. We're going to create a copy of target creature or artifact you control, except it's an artifact. Sack it at the beginning of the next end step. Basically, if we want to make an extra Dockside or a Myrrh or something that we can basically, it's going to get sacked, but we can sack it to our commander anyway. We have Scuttlement. If our opponent has something that has like protection from a color, or doing something, and they want to kind of like do color shenanigans, this can change it. He's also just a good mana dork. We have Silver Myrrh. We have Solemn Simulacrum. When it dies, draw a card, but when it ETBs, we get a land. It's ramp. Stormkilling Artist. We want to cast certain sorcery spells, so it's going to ramp us. Talron, Sky Summoner, will make us more creatures that will sack to our commander. Tanos, Urza's Apprentice. This one is if we want to copy an ability from an artifact we control, like we have the Staff of Domination or the Commander Sphere. If we want to kind of draw an extra card, I'm going to take him out, actually. we're going to take out Thanos. And we're going to add in another card I was looking at. You know what? No. What's that called? Here, we'll do this. Impact Tremors. That's a good one. Because we're going to be mega creatures anyway. There we go. Impact Tremors. But, alright. So we took out Thanos, Solemn, Sword Canaris, Tolerant, Threefold Thunderhulk, 7 mana drop. He's also a little expensive. In his battlefield or attacks, we create a number of 1/1 gnome artifact creature tokens equal to its power. So he's also going to make dudes, and we can sack them to make himself bigger if we want to have a giant beat stick later, and he'll make more later on. Walking Ballista, basically to shoot our opponents, but also he's a mana sink for stuff later on. Worm Coil Engine, basically it's going to be a threat that when it dies, we get 2 littler dudes. For sorceries, we have Arcane Endeavor. Hopefully we can cast with our commander to draw cards and to get other free casts. We have Asinine Antics, which will put basically make all our opponent's creatures 1/1s. Blasphemous Act is a board wipe if we want to cast it. Burn Down the House. It's a board wipe, or it'll make us more dudes that we can sack to our commander. Chain Reaction is a board wipe. Consuming Tide is kind of like a soft restart, except everybody gets one thing. So yeah, that's kind of like if our opponents are getting too big for their britches, we can kind of just slow them down. We have a Gamble, is a cheap tutor, because what? It's only, it's like a $7 card. We have Game Plan, kind of reset if we want to fill our hands. Gandalf's Sanction, which is basically going to, at the end game, kind of hit our opponent's creature and hopefully hit them. Grape Shot, to kind of storm off. We've hit the Motherlode to kind of discover 10, and if we hit something small, we make extra tokens. Jessica's Will, it'll give us mana, and we can kind of like get some value off the top of our deck, depending on what we do. Karn's Temple of Sundering is an extra turn spell and a bounce spell. We have Mana Geyser, which is a ramp spell. Mind's Desire to kind of storm off, get some extra stuff. Mob Rule, I think this was until end of turn, Mob Rule is to kind of take our opponent's stuff and we can sack them to our commander. We have Over the Top. This is it's just a pet card for me. It's just to include a bunch of chaos. There's a dude in my playgroup, he really hates this spell. But he plays kind of competitive, but he doesn't want to deal with a bunch of stuff at the same time. So he is a competitive player, hates chaos, so I'm introducing chaos. Shattering Spree is just a bunch of removal and copy spells. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is kind of just mill for each of our opponents. Time Warp is another extra turn spell. We have Arc Bond, is another pet card for me, but it's also kind of just a soft board wipe and burn for opponents. Chaos Mutation is more chaos. We have Chaos Warp. What is this? Yep. Basically is removal and chaos. We have Force of Will, which is a counter spell. We have High Tide for ramp, increasing Vengeance to kind of copy our spells. Is It Charm is a counter spell, removal, and it's also card draw. Mystic Confluence is just a really good spell that is a counter spell, bounce spell, and draw card. Sudden Substitution is, in my opinion, just a really fun card. We can, if we want to give our opponents one of our weaker spells, and then we can kind of basically take one of their things. We have Twin Cast to copy our stuff, Wild Ricochet to copy our stuff, and we have Word of Seizing to take control of our opponent's things if we want to sack it later. For artifacts, we have Arcane Signet, which is a Mana Rock, Astronaut's Altar, Basalt Monolith, Commander Sphere, Forsaken Monument, Lotus Petal, Soul Ring, all basically ramp. Staff of Domination is a mana sink for us to do what we need it to do. The Might Stone, the Weak Stone, is removal and a mana rock or card draw. And Vulcan Ori, if basically anything that'll make us draw cards, or if we exile something from our deck with Jessica's Will and we have that mana, or if we cast our mana spells, we can basically at least use that mana to cast something from our hand. We have Impact Tremors, which with all my dudes that make creatures, we can basically burn our opponents. Metallurgic Summonings is to make creatures with our instants and sorceries, so we're going to try and recycle our deck. Widespread Panic is basically to stop opponents' tutors. So even though Widespread Panic lets us tutor, this is mostly to stop our opponents, because a lot of people with Vampiric Tutor, Mystic Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, with this, they'll put it on top of their deck, and now they have to put something from their hand on top of their deck. Though a lot of competitive people play card draw, this makes my opponents have to put more resources into drawing their cards if they want to tutor. And it's kind of like a punishment. They want to do a bunch of quick tutors. So yeah. Especially if like nothing is in their hand. For lands, I kept it very basic. We have Cybertron, which is Command Tower. Fable Passage to if we get a little mana screwed. We have 13 islands. We have Mirrex to make artifact creatures. With Toxic that we can sack. So like late game, if we just don't have enough creatures, we can at least make something to sack to our commander. We have 13 mountains. We have a Myriad Landscape for ramp. Restless Spire. If we get late game and we have too much mana, we can just sack this to our commander. We have Temple of Epiphany, which is just a good dual land, and Training Center, which is a good dual land. But yeah, guys, this deck is something I literally just came up with. As you could see, I took Taunos out to put in Impact Tremors. But I could take out Impact Tremors for the card from Fate Reforged, that anytime a creature leaves your battlefield, each opponent takes 1 damage, or you deal 1 damage to the opponent. That can go in here, even though it's 2 more mana. It's still good. But yeah, this is a deck that I'm still going to be adjusting in the future. But I'm hoping to do some gameplay with it and change it up some more, balance it out. Because this is a deck I'm literally just throwing together. I have, and with some stuff I don't have. But yeah. So let's go ahead and test it out, since we have the lands in there. We're going to go ahead and restart. And we're going to go ahead and draw a turn. So immediately, we're going to play an island to kind of mess with our opponents. Then we're going to go to our next turn. Mountain. And let me see, 6 mana, yeah. So next turn, we're going to do an island, Salt Monolith. Next turn, mountain. Probably do a, you know what? We'll do Ugin. By tapping this down, 1, 2, 3, add token. I don't know which one it is. Is it the Spirit token, and we exile the top of our deck. So we have a Palladiumer in exile. That when this dies, I think. So then we go to our next turn. This is not on tap. We will draw into this. What we'll do is an Impact Tremors. Here. We'll put this right here. Which is that and that. And then we'll do a Staff of Domination. Then we'll do Ugin again, which is +1. Yeah. Add a loyalty counter. Add a loyalty counter. Exile. Add token. Spirit. Cast here. Cast is pretty good. But it's going to be just weird. But cast is not a good one to have. But we can try it. So not. So next turn. Ricochet, so I'm going to do that, and then we have responses in our hand. Next turn, we're going to go ahead and do stack load pedal. We're going to do Mindstone, Weakstone, and we're going to draw 2. Alright, next turn, that, and immediately I think this becomes a lot better, because what we can now do is armor, and we have answers and responses in our hand. So next turn, what we probably do is play mirrors. I'll say we cast our commander. We'll leave the mountain open. And then we'll go to combat. We'll stack armor with the exile to our deck. Don't worry, exile forever. It's fine. So next turn, we immediately card ability, but I think what I want to do, honestly, is I'm probably just going to ramp 1, 2, 3, 5. We'll do that. There we go. Because now we have enough mana to do some other stuff. So yeah, we do Chaos Warp. Next turn, boom. Now we have Ugin, which is literally just these 2 lands. Add a little to counter. Oh, there we go. Add token, do 2. Exile. We get Mirror Landscape. We'll burn it for 1. But immediately, I'm always going to go combat. Sack the token. Get Mirror Landscape to our hand. Move exile. It's just as well when I cast it. We'll stay on average. We get 3 mana. And probably usually have better commanders. So we're going to exile the top 3. And I can cast these on their turn. So is it play them? You can play them. So we'll go ahead, we'll play the land. We'll scry 1. Which is minutes. I got there. So guys, for next,